Hi, everybody. Dr. Joanna Fland here. I'm really, really grateful, feeling very grateful to be with you today. I have been digging around in the research and finding studies that are going to help us understand the role of intermittent fasting for those of us who have been given addiction to processed foods. We're going to tell you how to make that safe and work for you, and how to avoid the dangers of intermittent fasting. So I'm very, very glad you're getting this information, and I hope you will pass it on to everybody you know. So this is always the question we're asking when we're educating about processed food addiction. Does whatever it is make the addiction worse, or does it make it easier to control? Can we make intermittent fasting safe for people with processed food addiction? What we're going to do today is we're going to, of course, look at the research. We always start with the research, and particularly research that eliminates some aspect of brain function. Addictions are happening in the brain. The consequences cascade through the whole body. Every cell is affected negatively. But where you have to start is in the brain. And then we will be talking about how to use intermittent fasting safely. And it's very limited, but there is a safe path. All right, so we're going to go through the top studies showing how intermittent fasting impacts food addiction. Here's our first two studies. Fasting hyperactivates addicted brain cells. And this is something that you cannot get around. We've got two studies here. Fasting precedes more reactive dopamine pathways. So what does that mean? That means that when you're exposed to a trigger, a reminder, any kind of food stimulation, your dopamine cells are going to release more intense cravings. And the likelihood that those cravings will win the battle with your frontal lobe is monumental. It just increases the likelihood of loss of control. And then one of my favorite researchers, Eric Stice, who's now at Stanford, he correlated fasting, any kind of restricted eating, with a hyper reaction in the brains of people who were getting a sweetened dairy drink. So he's got them in MRI machines. He's watching this in real time. This is not something that's up for discussion. When you see this on a brain imaging study, it's over. We just have to accept that not eating enough food hyperactivates the addiction. This is another very, very good study. It's a 24-hour fast. And what happened? So these are people who had significantly increased eating after fasting for 24 hours, as opposed to a group that had been fed for those 24 hours. When you really step back from it, it's just common sense. But you can't, it's just dangerous for a food addicted person to do anything that would hyperactivate the cravings or eating or make you more intensely interested in it. Just steer away 180 degrees. This is very disturbing. Again, two different studies. This one was a rat study, and after they were subjected to fasting, or we should just call it starvation, they persisted in binge eating for longer. Months later, they were still binge eating, as opposed to a group that had been fed. So then in a study of humans, a period of restriction or fasting did correlate with more binging for longer. So it's not like you can fast and then you're going to be over it in a couple of days. It could last for months. In other words, we're talking about a propensity, kind of a leaning towards binging, a greater urge to binge that follows fasting. And we know the mechanism. It's hyperactivated addicted brain cells. So this is also quite disturbing. Fasting is associated with more severe eating disorders than dieting. So what this is telling us is that the more starvation correlates with worse eating disorders. This is a phenomenon called dose dependency, where the reaction is dependent on the amount of the dysfunction or stimulation. So adults with anorexia and purging and bulimia correlated with a higher frequency of fasting. This is in comparison to adults with a binge eating disorder. And so adults with bulimia who reported restricting food intake by eating small meals and low-calorie meals. So this is a stark contrast. Fasting is you're not eating at all. But even people with bulimia who ate small, low-calorie, not enough food meals, they did not develop the binge eating to the same degree. So even though it wasn't enough calories, the fact that they were eating regularly reduced the amount of binging that they experienced. Skipping breakfast increases loss of control over food. I have just listened to a lecture in an academic environment by a person. This person's a researcher. It's just like, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. The information that's being spread around out there is horrifying. Statements like, well, people seem to be able to skip breakfast most easily, so that's a good thing to do. No, that is directly contrary to research showing the pathway to having firm control over your food. Is skipping breakfast is going in the opposite direction. It impairs cognitive and function. It correlates with increased junk food consumption, and it co-occurs with weight gain. So you see 3 studies there. Ahadi, Gleason, four. Ober and Wadaluoska. 4 studies. Skipping breakfast co-occurs with weight gain. So this is something that when we get to the safe methods for fasting, just remember, just really fight to eat some kind of breakfast. Weight, shape concerns precede eating disorders. Again, we've got 2 really good studies here that if you are worried about weight, your brain is thinking, oh, there's only one reason to worry about weight, and that is that we're starving to death. Because there's never been a period in 7 million years of human evolution where anybody was worried about too much weight. It was too hard to find food and you had to expend too much energy to find the food. Nobody ever worried about overweight. So the brain only has one setting for worrying about weight. And that setting is, worried about weight, we must be starving. Let's go intensify motivating our human to look for food. So if you are fasting for weight loss, it's a double, triple whammy. There is a reason why weight shape concerns precede the development of eating disorders, because the concern itself is ramping up craving and food seeking. Stress triggers addictive eating. Now, here's a great research piece, a new one, 2021. Fasting is stressful. I want to read the whole thing. People fasting for the first time were shown to experience negative psychological states throughout the entire experiment, such as greater appetite, more negative mood states, more stress, less vitality, and fewer recovery resources. please. And we know that stress activates the addiction. And then here's another study, an older one. Stress has been shown to trigger overeating in people with visceral fat. Everybody knows that one of the core components of recovery is stress avoidance. We are calm in all circumstances. We use affirmations. I am calm in all circumstances. I am calm and no matter what. I am calm no matter what is going on. We fight for that calm because we don't want to activate the addiction and loss of control. And here we have this whole community advocating fasting, which is stressful. It's another pathway to activating the addiction. Caffeine use, I just was shocked. I have to tell you, listening to this lecture and having this supposed expert advocate for using caffeine to quell hunger. Caffeine is the worst. It's just one of the worst things for the addiction. And here we see it. Caffeine correlates with anorexia. It has been shown to block the calmness function on the nervous system. It's going in the exact opposite direction that we need to go in. And then this other new one, depressive symptoms such as poor appetite, overeating, sleep disorders, depressed mood, and anxiety are statistically associated with greater caffeine intake. And here you have these experts advocating use of caffeine to quell hunger. It horrified me. I tell you, it takes a bit to really make me mad, but this whole field of intermittent fasting, now that I've seen the research is so clear. It's not hiding. Anybody can go in and look at this research and make their recommendations responsible. But the promoters of intermittent fasting have not done that. And that makes me mad. Okay, now this is something good. So the intermittent fasting that we're going to talk about today reduces contact with food. You get enough food, but it's not in your face all day long. So reduced queuing is good. Not eating between meals reduces queuing. And we've got a good research report on that. And so my own addition here on this slide is that level 1 intermittent fasting gives you 3 meals a day. I'm all for that. Fully portioned, on time. Don't make your body wait. Don't let your body get hungry. With, and this is me, this is not what the intermittent fasting people are saying. If you need snacks, then make it a well-balanced protein, low-carb snack, because our glucose systems are not very good at regulating glucose. We've kind of the food industry's worn out those systems for us, and we may just need to have a snack. And I am all for that. So you're regulating glucose through your food and through food combinations. Okay, so how are we going to take these very clear, very definitive studies and use them? Here are top 10 strategies. First of all, before we get started, let's remember, what are we doing? What are we doing in recovery from processed food addiction? We're soothing addicted brain cells. Soothing, soothing, soothing. They are so prone to erupting and getting control of our behavior that our number one job is to keep those addicted brain cells soothed. They are soothing. We are restoring cognitive function, which when you soothe the addicted brain cell, you return blood flow to the frontal lobe. Avoid stress, stay calm in all situations, and keep the food-seeking brain asleep. No, calm, secure. Okay, I don't need to motivate my human to look for food today. So those are our top 4 goals in terms of brain management. So one strategy is to adopt the level 1 fasting. Eat 3 fully proportioned meals per day. Add a snack if you need to. There's the formula for a snack. For me, it's 6 ounces of low sugar fruit plus 2 ounces of animal protein or 3 ounces of plant protein. But you could, if you don't want to do fruit, if you're too sensitive to fruit, substitute vegetables. Friggin' eat breakfast. Calm the food-seeking brain in your community. It's the best way to calm a brain is to be in a community, and then minimize triggers that come from meals. All of those things happen when you adopt level 1 fasting. And I was very glad that these advocates of fasting have level 1. We used to call it don't eat between meals, and now it's called level 1 fasting. Okay, so we want to fast. We want to be current, hip, with up to the latest level 1, which is 3 meals a day. And what I say is add snacks if you need them. Eat only unprocessed foods. I know I hear the intermittent fasting people advocating clean food, and I'm with them on that. Learn how to make quick meals. Oh my goodness. I heard this quote unquote expert saying that fasting is really good for busy people because they're too busy to cook. So what is that really saying? It's okay to hyperactivate the addicted brain cells in busy people who are probably already stressed. It's okay. Just don't eat. We see now clearly from the research the consequences of that they will be binging. Learn the difference between hunger, which leads to binging, and cravings, because you stop those two. They're both dangerous. They're both not helping your brain, but the approach to both of them is entirely different. If you're hungry, eat more. Make your portion sizes bigger. And of course, we have a rotation method that we like teaching that shows you how to decide what your portion sizes are. We're not going to dictate portion sizes. We're going to empower, equip, train people to make really good judgments about how much they should be eating. So if you're hungry, eat more. If you have cravings, get into an immersion brain retraining program. Two very different things with very different answers. Take the self-quiz, for heaven's sakes. The biggest strategy is find out if you're experiencing the signs of addiction to processed foods, and you can do that at processedfoodaddiction.com. If you have an addiction, if you're experiencing the signs, even a few, the last thing you want to do is give that addiction a great big boost by starving. Eat enough food. So we'll give you a list of suggested quantities. You can find that at Food Addiction Resources. Click on handouts. But what we really like to do is teach you how to rotate portion sizes so you can tell which days you might need a little bit more food and which days you can eat a little bit less. Rotate. And here's a animal protein-based master plan. If you go to Processed Food Addiction and you register there for the free information, please do email us and ask for any kind of a plan you would like. You'll find out if you're allergic to foods, and you'll have something that's really easy to use. Please get into the right community. Community releases oxytocin, so all of the feel-good pathways in the brain are downregulated by processed foods, serotonin and dopamine and cannabinoid and opiate. Get into a group that will release your oxytocin. That is still working. Get into a group that's going to give you research-based. This is a research-based set of suggestions. We just ran through the research. Get into a research-based group. And get into a group that understands addiction. So the people who are advocating this intermittent fasting, they don't have a clue about addiction. I actually went to the bookstore, I opened one of their books, just leafed through it, and there's a description of how intermittent fasting can put food addiction into remission. It's the exact opposite. the things that are suggested in that chapter, we see from extensive research, will make binging worse. It will make loss of control worse. Okay, avoid using caffeine. My goodness, just slowly. It's a terrible withdrawal. It takes 3 weeks at least, but decreasing will help. So tapering off, it's one of the paradoxes of withdrawal from caffeine. The less you use, the greater the effect from the remaining amount. So you might be surprised that you can taper without triggering withdrawal. And we can help you through withdrawal. Just register at processedfoodaddiction.com and ask for help. Don't fast to lose weight. Anytime you tell your brain, let's do this to lose weight, you are waking up the food-seeking brain. All right. So the big question is, why would you just incur the risk of dire consequences of this fasting thing when there's a wonderful, safer, more productive, more effective, fun way to do it? Just it's immersion recovery in a great community. And you can learn more about that opportunity at processedfoodaddiction.com. There's the bibliography if you want to look at particularly the titles. I didn't want to take up room on the slides, but I am giving you the full title of the study, the studies that I'm citing. I think there are 20 some of them. Okay, thank you. You know, Food Addiction Reset trains people worldwide to support others in recovery from processed food addiction. Get the best training in managing an addiction reset community. That's us at foodaddictionrecoveryadvocate.com. Have a fulfilling job and career, and email us. If you are interested in the training, email us at info@processedfoodaddiction.com. Thank you so much for being with me today. I so appreciate it when you all get this education, and I know that you're going to be safe. Find us at processedfoodaddiction.com. I'll see you there. Thank you so much.